Hello, welcome to the Zero Ends channel. Please like and subscribe. Please enjoy our live.
All right. Make sure everything's set up nicely. Welcome. Welcome back to the Zero Ends channel. I'm Zero Ends here. Today's broadcast, it is somewhat of a special broadcast. I might have to, tie two little informations into one. So this might be a long one. But it's nothing new here on the Zero Ends channel. I try to get straight to the point. Make sure to subscribe to the Zero Ends channel on YouTube. Also follow Zero Ends on TikTok as well. Eventually, there's gonna be a Twitter soon for the Zero Ends channel, so people can follow the Zero Ends as well. And like always, check out some of the content. This channel especially deals with mostly reading books, certain latest news, some that is affecting Americans or just in general, the things that really will matter. You'll find here on the Zero Ends channel. I can't speak for other news and politics or any other book reading channels. This channel is a little bit more unique than out the norm. So let's see if I write make sure to like. Now, the latest news so far, if you're not recalling, affirmative action is now completely been lifted, or what they call banned. Yeah. Same thing though, but yeah. And this might hurt a lot of folks that are minority, especially black folks mostly. I heard rumors that it never did really. Black people in general don't really benefit from affirmative action, from what I'm hearing, and that might be true. It probably holds facts, but really, truly, very few Americans, black especially, really benefit from affirmative action personally. And that is the ongoing conversation that since it's no longer here, is it really that worth it? Do black people really benefit affirmative action? This is a question I always thought of for some time now. And, you know, some people that's in high office were the ones that helped lifted the ban of affirmative action. The one Clarence Thomas, I believe, and some other people in judicial branch or high governments or high in those seatings decide to say it's time to do away with it. And this could pretty much hurt the average American today. Now that this is gone, and really truly, what minorities, especially black people, are going to do now that it's been lifted? So we're going to look at one or two articles of the latest story on affirmative action, and come up with our own conclusions. So as you watch this video, actually hear or watch it, whatever you want to call it, make sure you hit the like button, share the button, and leave comments. It's always good to leave comments on what's your thoughts and opinions, because personally, it helps the algorithm pretty well. And I'm trying to find. And let me see if this is the article. And usually this deal with the college level of things. All right. What is this? Okay. Okay, so let me pull up, see if it will. All right. Let me see if I have my speech. I'm trying to get something set up, guys. Mind you. All right. Is this thing working?
With Supreme Court decision.
Okay, it's working now. All right. So let me see if you guys can hear that. And I'm going to play it from my other device to make sure everything is clear, so that way we can follow through with this. So I'm going to share my screen with y'all. And let's see what's going into why they decided to lift it, this ban. So here we go. We're going to share screen. And to be honest with you, I covered this back last year, the end of last year, that this was something that they were in the works of deciding to remove back in 2022. And now we're here in the month of June, end of June, now in July, that they made it official. So let's see my sharing. Okay. So now I'm going to be listening in, and let's see how the volume sounds. And matter of fact, let me see if anybody else is in the call line. I'm probably gonna check if anybody is in the call conference. Oh yeah, they're doing a show, so we're not gonna worry about them. All right, so we're just gonna rock out what I'm doing, guys. Ain't I'm going to make this bigger so that y'all can see, and it looks like my finger is active and working. So let us begin. Let us begin. Listen closely now.
College admissions could become more subjective. Colleges have a game plan, like emphasizing the personal essay, but so do conservative groups that promise to monitor and, if necessary, go back to court. In the Supreme Court decision striking down racial and ethnic preferences in college admissions, Chief Justice John G. Roberts Jr. had harsh words for Harvard and the University of North Carolina, calling their admissions process elusive, opaque and imponderable. But the court's ruling against the two universities on Thursday could lead to an admissions system that is even more subjective and mysterious, as colleges try to follow the law but also admit a diverse class of students. Officials at some universities predicted that there would be less emphasis on standardized metrics like test scores and class rank, and more emphasis on personal qualities, told through recommendations and the application essay, the opposite of what many opponents of affirmative action had hoped for. Will it become more opaque? Yes, it will have to, said Danielle Wren-Holley, who is about to take over as president of Mount Holyoke College. It's a complex process, and this opinion will make it even more complex. In an interview, Edward Bloom, the founder and president of Students for Fair Admissions, the plaintiff, defended what he called standard measurements of academic qualifications, citing studies that showed test scores, grades, and coursework helped determine which students would thrive at competitive schools. He promised to enforce the decision, saying that Students for Fair Admissions and its counsel have been closely monitoring potential changes in admissions procedures. We remain vigilant and intend to initiate litigation should universities defiantly flout this clear ruling, he wrote in a statement on Thursday. It would be nearly impossible, however, to eliminate any mention or suggestion of race in the admissions process, starting with applicants' names. And in the decision, Justice Roberts specifically kept the door open to consider racial or ethnic background in someone's lived experience. Nothing in this opinion should be construed as prohibiting universities from considering an applicant's discussion of how race affected his or her life, be it through discrimination, inspiration, or otherwise, he wrote. Still, he warned that the personal essay could not play a stealth role in telegraphing race. In other words, the student must be treated based on his or her experiences as an individual, not on the basis of race, he wrote. Many universities have for too long done just the opposite. Universities, including Harvard and UNC, said on Thursday that they would comply with the ruling. But for outside skeptics, untangling a university's intentions will be challenging.
Let's pause for a second. Have you noticed that Harvard and UNC said that they will comply with this ruling? Have you ever noticed that? Why these universities would, or two of them that express, and I mean express, and bring myself closer, how they find this to be a good thing? Because you got to understand how Harvard works. If you don't understand Harvard, and let me turn my volume down because I don't want no echo. For those that don't know, Harvard is, and always will be, is not some of any of higher education. It is designed, and I can say since it is an exception, is designed as a hub for networking certain right qualified intellects to help shape and mold this nation, this country. There was a movie called Facebook, and there was a scene in the movie Facebook. For those that's not familiar with this movie, I'm only going to give you a little snippet from what I can recall when that movie came out back in, I think it came out in 2000. When did it came out? I think it came out in 2009. In that movie, the twin brothers were complaining to one of the university's top chairmen on how the one Mr. Zuckerberg, or formerly known Mark Zuckerberg, stole their ideals allegedly. Well, actually, not allegedly, stole their money in regards to he took their money to put in to build his own online social network called Facebook. And the president or one of the chairs of Harvard told these two gentlemen this. This university is only focus is for you to create money. That's it. What he means, and this is what I can remember. That means you come here to network and hope that you go out in the world and be the potential either entrepreneurs or that potential person that will be the ones that will be the hub that people give and create money for, not only for themselves but also to generate money for the university. Because Harvard is not in the business of making worker bees. They're in the business of making the future and potential millionaires, multimillionaires, and potential maybe billionaires. And mind you, if I could be wrong, I don't think Mark finished Harvard. I think he only did 3 semesters up to his junior year. So because of this, they're going to comply with this because this better suits their interests in regards them allowing people that either qualify or even, let's be honest, don't have the racial hue to be a part of their circles. If you know what I mean. So this is something that's beneficial for those top universities to really make it really all white, if we want to keep it real. And that's a conversation most people never want to have, but we're having it now. All right. So let's continue.
How can they know whether an admissions decision was based on an essay about personal grit or the race of the applicant that it revealed? I think a very plausible outcome of this will be that schools will just cheat and say, "Let's see who gets sued," said Richard Sander, a law professor at the University of California, Los Angeles, who has been critical of affirmative action. The chances of an individual school getting sued are low, and the cost of suing is really high. Some education officials have all.
Wait. You heard what it said? They're not concerned of you trying to dispute it because you got to have money to sue. Let's rewind that back because that's very important.
I think a very plausible outcome of this will be that schools will just cheat and say, "Let's see who gets sued," said Richard Sander, a law professor at the University of California, Los Angeles, who has been critical of affirmative action. The chances of an individual school getting sued are low, and the cost of suing is really high. Some education officials have already discussed how to leverage the essay. Students should tailor their admissions essays to describe how race had affected their lives, said Shannon Gundy, an admissions official at the University of Maryland, in a recent presentation sponsored by the American Council on Education. Right now, students write about their soccer practice, they write about their grandmother dying, she said, adding, they don't write about their trials and tribulations. They don't write about the challenges that they've had to experience. Colleges could also ask for other more pointed essays, along the lines of the diversity, equity, and inclusion statements that have become a familiar part of faculty hiring. Ms. Holly, the incoming Mount Holyoke president, imagined a question that would say something like, "One of the core values of Mount Holyoke College is diversity of all kinds. Please tell us why you value it, and what you think you bring to the Mount Holyoke community in terms of diversity." College officials are predicting that the decision will lead to an immediate drop in the number of Black and Hispanic students at selective universities, echoing the experiences of California and Michigan after those states adopted bans on affirmative action at their public universities years ago.
So, and there's going to be a drop, and that was the whole attention now, and I mean now, for them to make this move in present day. Because now, in the line of what they call a racist society, they're trying to play for keeps now, and it's all hands on deck. Not only of keep the numbers going of non-Black people, but also to keep so-called certain groups out of certain esteemed universities, which I don't look at them as esteemed. I look at them as regular universities, personally. That has a fancy name, but that's pretty much it. And please, guys, like the stream. Likes are free. And the premise is this: that now that they're making exclusion, you're going to see these universities be more and more wider. And yes, you guys still meet a standard. Don't be fooled. But the standard for a lot of non-Blacks is not going to be that high. For those that really could do it, it's going to be very hard for them to get into these universities. Now, because now they could express their actual racism and you can't do nothing about it. Especially you heard earlier that they could possibly sue. And I say to that, good luck to that. And trust me, majority of non-minorities don't really got the money to waste time to go really sue. Just keeping it real with y'all. If they really had that money, then fighting just to be accepted would be less. It will not be a focus on a good portion of the non-Black or the major black race in its entirety. So, what you gonna do now? Well, let's keep listening. Let's keep listening.
Black students at the University of California, Berkeley, made up only 3.4% of last fall's incoming freshman class, a quarter century after the ban took effect. But many of the 100 or so schools that practice affirmative action have been planning for this moment for months, if not years. And they have already made moves toward a race-neutral admissions era, one that tries to follow the letter of the law, while finding ways to keep the ethos of affirmative action. Academic rigor is still important, but standardized tests? Not needed, and in some cases, not even read. Schools are increasingly giving preferences to high-achieving students from low-income families or to first-gen applicants, the first in their families to go to college. They are pouring money into supporting students and offering more need-based financial aid. Some selective colleges will also most likely play a much more direct role in nurturing prospective applicants. The University of Virginia, for example, announced a plan this month to target 40 high schools in 8 regions of the state that had little history of sending applicants. Duke University just promised full tuition grants to students from North and South Carolina with family incomes of $150,000 or less. The hardest part really is identifying and recruiting the students, said Allison Byerly, president of Carleton College, which she said would expand its partnerships with community organizations. The students are out there, said L. Song Richardson, president of Colorado College. If we believe that talent is equally distributed across demographic groups, she said, then you would expect an unbiased recruitment process to result in a diverse class. Some educators believe that California's experience after its 1996 ban on affirmative action shows that such programs can work. The UC system overall admitted its most diverse class ever in 2021. But recruiting was expensive, The price was in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and the top campus, Berkeley, is still struggling to catch up. The risks are different for some public universities, like the University of North Carolina or the University of Virginia, already had run-ins with conservative politicians over diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. They will very likely tread carefully when it comes to any murky race-neutral policies. One of the real movements you see from public universities is to be as apolitical as they possibly can, in red states and in blue states. Said Gordon G., the president of West Virginia University. It's kind of a Bud Light moment. He said, referring to the beer company's ill-fated hiring of a transgender spokeswoman that led to a boycott. There could also be pressure to blow up the entire process, eliminating preferences for the children of alumni and donors, who tend to be white and wealthy. So far, most schools have resisted the...
Let's read that again. There could be also be pressures to blow up the entire process, eliminating preference for the children of alumni and donors who tend to be white or wealthy. Let me see if I can unpack that. If y'all recall, what year was it? Was it 4, 5, 6 years ago? I think it might have been 5 to 4 years ago, I believe. There was something in the news that broke out of a few future college students got caught in, or actually certain admissions got caught in a nasty scandal where they were fabricating and let in well-established, rich, non-black children in their universities because their parents wanted their children to get in these universities. And they paid out their pocket to the admissions or some people that was recruiting to really, give the A-OK to let them be accepted in these universities. If y'all recall, when that broke out, a lot of people were questioning the admissions process as a whole, which we should, because let's be fair, honest. Let's be real. You had to be qualified, meaning grades, SAT, and we could say even early the essays, to potentially qualify for these top 10 universities. But if you are born into money, and you know somebody, which everybody knows somebody, you can really actually avoid that process. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but the truth as be said, richer families will play against the rules to make it possible for their children, their own seeds, to get ahead. And people don't understand that, and really should know that the game has always been rigged depending on your status in this country. It's so rigged that even to the point now that you find now that when these stories break out, it's more than you should be shaking your head. You should be just expecting it, because that's how the game is being played. And I'm sorry to tell y'all that, but that's how life works. So, really truly, for those that did not know, you know now. And sad thing about all this is now it might make the playing field be more wider with these moves. And as I'm looking here, guys, okay, all right. So let's keep going. Let's keep listening.
In treaties, saying that these preferences build community and assist in fundraising. But with cynicism around college admissions high and many believing the system is rigged for the well-off and well-connected, the court's decision could force a reckoning. This is a big setback to racial justice, but it's also an opportunity. Said Jerome Carabel, a UC Berkeley sociologist who has studied college admissions. Now is the time to go back to the drawing boards and see what we can do. There are a million ideas out there. Stephanie Saul contributed reporting.
Okay, that's the end of this article. And let me see if we can find that article. So far in that article, and I hope you guys are hitting the like buttons coming. That's one of the story backgrounds of what's leading up to the banning of affirmative action. And let's look at any other news articles talking about this. And let me look around. Let me go back. I'm looking for my other PC. Let me see. I'm just looking at some right now, guys. So don't mind me. All right. So, no matter of fact, let me look at affirmative action as the article says, and let me see if I can find. I know there was a bunch of articles that was talking about this, so I'm gonna close this one up and find that one. All right, there we go. Let's look at another one. Let's look at that was New York Times. Let's look at let's check out CNN. Why not? All right, yeah, this is a good one. So I'm going to share this one so y'all can watch this for yourselves. This one's from CNN. And let me see. There we go. This is CNN. And you see all the judges, even Clarence Thompson, his old coon ass. Let's look and listen in. All right, let me turn on Speechify. So let's hear this. These all happened June 29, 2003. Listen carefully.
Hear what happened inside the Supreme Court after June 29, 2023 Supreme Court Affirmative Action Decision. By Utti Sangal, Adrian Voigt, Sidney Kashiwagi, Matt Meyer and Tori B. Powell, CNN. Updated 9:53 p.m. Eastern Time, Thursday, June 29, 2023. Read more. Alito in the hot seat over trips to Alaska and Rome he accepted from groups and individuals who lobby the Supreme Court. Enter your email to subscribe to the CNN What Matters newsletter. Sign up for CNN's What Matters newsletter.
Wait, what's this?
Every day we summarize what matters and deliver it straight to your inbox. 5:37 p.m. Eastern Time, here's what you should know about the Supreme Court's landmark decision on affirmative action. From CNN's Ariane DeVoe, Devin Cole, and Tierney Sneed. The Supreme Court says colleges and universities can no longer take race into consideration as a specific basis for granting admission, a landmark decision overturning long-standing precedent that has benefited Black and Latino students in higher education. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the opinion for the conservative majority, saying the Harvard and University of North Carolina admissions programs violated the Equal Protection Clause because they failed to offer measurable objectives to justify the use of race. He said the programs involve racial stereotyping and had no specific endpoint. The opinion claims the court was not expressly overturning prior cases authorizing race-based affirmative action, and suggested that how race has affected an applicant's life can still be part of how their application is considered. Here's what else you should know. Who dissented? Justice Sonia Sotomayor, joined by Justice Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, issued a fiery dissent, saying the opinion rolls back decades of precedent and momentous progress. In a demonstration of the controversial nature of the case, justices read their dissents from the bench for the first time since 2019.
Before we continue, I'm going to slow that down a little more. Before we continue, you know, Kataja, the new woman that was headed Supreme Court judge. If I could really recall, and let me see if there's a picture of these people. Yeah, these are the pictures of them. What you see in this picture, you only see one or two things. Two black people. Out of all the rest of them are non-black. Ain't that something? And they all came to the decision to really roll this back, which this was something in the making. One thing that I find interesting, because they said black and Latinos, especially this will hurt most. I don't hear them talk about the Asian people. And I'm going to give you a reason why they don't talk about Asian people in a second. So this thing that's being overturned, do you think a lot of more black people or minority non-black people are going to now be eager to go to college now that they can't go to any college of their liking? It makes me wonder how far now that the possibility or the relevance of college goes now. Because when I hear black people, especially when they talk about college, I do not really see no actual direction, personally. But that's just me. But let's keep going, because I'm gonna give you my analysis about why the Asians were not put into this.
Since 2019, exemptions to the decision, the ruling says that U.S. military service academies can continue to take race into consideration as a factor in admissions. During oral arguments, Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar stressed the unique interests of the military and argued that race-based admissions programs further the nation's compelling interest of diversity. Reactions: GOP officials celebrated the decision as Democrats blasted the court. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said the justices just ruled that no American should be denied educational opportunities because of race. And Republican Senator Ted Cruz, who sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee, said in a statement, "This is a great day for all Americans." Former President Donald Trump called Thursday a great day for America. Meanwhile, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called the ruling a giant roadblock in our country's march toward racial justice. Implications: CNN chief legal analyst Laura Coates said the decision will lead to sweeping changes to education in the U.S. And Steve Vladek, CNN Supreme Court analyst and professor at the University of Texas School of Law, said the decision will still not end the legal fight over college admissions. Civil rights.
Wrong with that. Oh, yes, it will. Yes, it will. Because that's why it was put in place. To help people that's trying to get to higher education be able to get a leg up. Because there are some historically HBCUs out here, but last time I checked and what I'm noticing, the HBCUs for the last decade, rather, have been closing down because there's not much return and not much invested, not only maintaining the universities, but a lot of students, particularly black students, are not really eager to go and be enrolled in the HBCUs like it was back in the 80s. And let's be fair and honest, guys. Majority of TV shows, the ones like A Different World or any of those School Days or those TV shows, most of them derive from HBCU universities that promoted going to HBCU. But since those shows no longer exist, majority of Americans, especially if you're a non-black person, or actually a non-white person, my fault, you're not gonna go into or want to, invest your time and energy to go into a HBCU. You gotta go to PWI. It's the honest truth. And this is as honest I'm gonna be with y'all. Personally, I think that most universities don't really matter to me. But for the sake of conversation, Let's be fair and honest. A lot of people still want to have the option to go to any university, but those days are behind us now. Let's continue.
Leaders and education advocates warn of diversity impacts from today's Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's landmark decision to bar colleges and universities from considering race as a specific basis for admission will make it more difficult for schools to achieve a diverse student population, civil rights leaders and education advocates say. The gutting of affirmative action upends a long-standing precedent that has benefited disadvantaged Black and Latino students in higher education. The practice has been in place since the 1960s as a tool to prevent discrimination at selective institutions, many of which historically only admitted white students. Now universities across the country seeking diversity will be charged with finding other ways to reach Black and Latino students. The task, researchers and education officials say, will not be easy. Wisdom Cole, National Director of the NAACP Youth and College Division, called the rollback of affirmative action a dark day in America. Affirmative action has been a beacon of hope for generations of Black students. Cole said in a statement Thursday. It stood as a powerful force against the insidious poison of racism and sexism, aiming to level the playing field and provide a fair shot at a high-quality education for all. Students across the country are wide awake to the clear and present danger encroaching on their classrooms. The Supreme Court case was sparked by conservative activist Edward Bloom, who filed lawsuits in 2014 against Harvard University and the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill challenging their use of race-conscious admissions. Bloom and other critics of affirmative action have said college admissions should be based on equal standards and merit. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the opinion on affirmative action for the conservative majority, saying the Harvard and University of North Carolina admissions programs violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment because they failed to offer measurable objectives to justify the use of race. He said the programs involve racial stereotyping and had no specific endpoint. The playing field is not leveled. Civil rights leaders and experts say the Supreme Court ruling is a setback for equality in education. Racial diversity at colleges and universities, particularly at competitive and Ivy League schools, may suffer, they say. A study by the Georgetown University Center on Education and the Workforce found that colleges and universities are less likely to meet or exceed their current levels of racial diversity in the absence of race-conscious admissions. They are also less likely to reflect the racial makeup of the population graduating from the nation's high schools. Zach Mabel, a researcher for Georgetown's Center for Education and the Workforce, said he expects the number of Black and brown students attending selective colleges nationwide will drop from the current 20% to about 16% without affirmative action in place. Mabel said race-neutral practices have not driven the diversity many colleges hoped for, and some students are simply not applying.
But the point is not to make what they call a diverse college. It's an exclusion form of college, not diverse. That's the difference. Exclusion. But if you're a person that's trying to seek to be friends with everybody, you don't know how the game really works. Personally. But, they gotta learn the hard way. And I'm seeing something else here. Hold on. Okay. That's more into this. All right, let me switch to the next article. So you guys could stop. Let me stop sharing. This is the continued part of this article. All right, the gutting of affirmative action is a clear and present danger to equal education, critics say. Another article, same day. Let's follow through. And let's listen.
The gutting of affirmative action is a clear and present danger to equal education, CNN. The Supreme Court's landmark decision to bar colleges and universities from considering race as a specific basis for admission will make it more difficult for schools to achieve a diverse student population, civil rights leaders and education advocates say. The gutting of affirmative action upends a long-standing precedent that has benefited disadvantaged Black and Latino students in higher education. Start following topics that matter to you with your free CNN account. Follow topics of interest to you: education, race and equality, Supreme Court. Explore all. Or sign up to say.
Hold on, guys. I don't know why it's doing that.
TIS has been in place since the 1960s as a tool to prevent discrimination at selective institutions, many of which historically only admitted white students. Add feedback. Now universities across the country seeking diversity will be charged with finding other ways to reach Black and Latino students. The task, researchers and education officials say, will not be easy. Wisdom Cole, National Director of the NAACP Youth and College Division, called the rollback of affirmative action a dark day in America. Affirmative action has been a beacon of hope for generations of Black students. Cole said in a statement Thursday. It stood as a powerful force against the insidious poison of racism and sexism, aiming to level the playing field and provide a fair shot at a high-quality education for all. Students across the country are wide awake to the clear and present danger encroaching on their classrooms. The Supreme Court case was sparked by conservative activist Edward Bloom, who filed lawsuits in 2014 against Harvard University and the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill, challenging their use of race-conscious admissions. Bloom and other critics of affirmative action have said college admissions should be based on equal standards and merit. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the opinion on affirmative action for the conservative majority, saying the Harvard and University of North Carolina admissions programs violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment because they failed to offer measurable objectives to justify the use of race. He said the programs involve racial stereotyping and had no specific endpoint. The playing field is not leveled. Civil rights leaders and experts say the Supreme Court ruling is a setback for equality in education. Racial diversity at colleges and universities, particularly at competitive and Ivy League schools, may suffer, they say. A study by the Georgetown University Center on Education and the Workforce found that colleges and universities are less likely to meet or exceed their current levels of racial diversity in the absence of race-conscious admissions. They are also less likely to reflect the racial makeup of the population graduating from the nation's high schools. Zach Mabel, a researcher for Georgetown's Center for Education and the Workforce, said he expects the number of Black and brown students attending selective colleges nationwide will drop from the current 20% to about 16% without affirmative action in place. Mabel said race-neutral practices have not driven the diversity many colleges hope for, and some students are simply not applying. The only thing it's going to do is further discourage students from underrepresented groups from applying for these institutions. Mabel said. And it's going to be harder for admissions officers to admit them because they have one eye blind when they are trying to admit these students. The Harvard campus is pictured in Cambridge, Massachusetts, on March 15, 2022. Rashad Robinson, president of Color of Change, said the decision only opens the door for more people with privilege to be admitted into selective colleges. Robinson described those applicants as athletes, legacies, students with access to test preparation services, and applicants who come from wealthy families. He challenged colleges to prevent this disparity by giving applicants a holistic review that includes their socioeconomic background and the challenges they have overcome. We are pushing universities to make a plan and be transparent about those plans, Robinson said. Privilege-based admissions will only lead to a country where who you were born to and what opportunities were afforded to you at birth, that had nothing to do with your merit, determines where you get to go. Marshall Anthony Jr., a research director for the Institute for College Access and Success, urged President Joe Biden's administration to take action to eliminate the barriers to college access for people of color, such as standardized testing mandates, application fees, legacy admission, and merit-based aid. All of these disproportionately, negatively impact the access and...
Now, in regards to legacies admission, I don't think that's going to be gone anytime soon. And here's why. Because if your parents were able to go to these top 10 universities and graduate, if you're a son or daughter of those parents, the chances are, if your parents put themselves and work their butt off to get in those positions respectfully, your success as a person that's the offshoot is not really that high, or I can say slimmer, because let's be honest, you have to qualify to be in these universities. And with legacy admissions, they're going to keep that for those that already did the work and have children that give them options. So I don't see them removing that anytime soon. I'm just saying. Let's keep listening.
This has been in place since the 1960s as a tool to prevent discrimination at selective institutes. We are pushing universities to make a plan and be transparent about those plans, Robinson said. Marshall Anthony Jr., a research director, all of these disproportionately, negatively impact the access and success of Black and Latinx students. Anthony said, the challenges to achieving diversity. Affirmative action was already banned in 9 states, including in Michigan and California, and these states could be case studies of what is to come for the entire country, some experts say. Colleges in Michigan, which banned affirmative action in 2006, and California, which banned the practice in 1996, have tried race-neutral approaches to affirmative action, including more consideration of high school class rank and socioeconomic status in the admissions process. Still, Black student enrollment dropped at flagship schools such as the University of Michigan and the University of California, Berkeley, and UCLA after affirmative action ended. Black undergraduate enrollment at the University of Michigan fell from 7% in the fall of 2006 to 4.4% in the fall of 2022. In recent years, the University of Michigan has launched programs aimed at diversifying the student body, including Go Blue Guarantee, which targets low and moderate income students, Kessler Scholars, which targets first-generation students, and Wolverine Pathways for students from under-resourced communities. Santa Ono, University of Michigan President Santa Ono said while the university is slowly regaining more Black students, the programs have taken time to implement and the results won't come overnight. Ono said affirmative action provides the most immediate impact on diverse student enrollment. I just think about the number of students who could have gone to Michigan between 2006 and today who could not. Ono told CNN. It's part of the American dream. Equal opportunity requires equal access to education as a foundation. Ono said diversity is important on college campuses because students can grow and learn from each other, hear different perspectives, and experience an environment that is a reflection of the real world. Across the University of California system, Black enrollment fell dramatically after the state outlawed affirmative action in 1996. According to the University of California, Berkeley's Black student enrollment was 5.9% in 1995, compared to 3.8% in 2022. Olufemi Ogundele, Associate Vice Chancellor of Admissions and Enrollment at UC Berkeley, said the university has achieved the same level of diversity it saw before affirmative action ended. University officials have spent more than $500 million on outreach efforts to low-income communities, according to a Supreme Court brief filed last year by university lawyers. Still, Ogundele said it's been difficult to reach more Black students due to demographic shifts in underserved neighborhoods. His office, he said, has found the most success with holistic review practices where they consider factors such as the academic environment of the K-12 school system the applicant attended. For a student who goes to a school that does not have AP Physics or AP Calculus, we don't hold that against that student, Ogundele said. But more Black students could be admitted to the highly ranked UC Berkeley if affirmative action was legal in the state, he said. I do think that if we were able to consider race, we would absolutely see a much diverse class, Ogundele said. This ad unit shows popular or related topics. Clicking on any of these will show you a list of sponsored.
All right, let's see if that's it. Yeah, that's it. So those are the articles. Let me close that window. Now, my real honest opinion on all this. Let's start with the Asians. The reason why Asians will perform better, score-wise, test scores or whatever, from what I'm hearing, and they were always denied in certain numbers to be accepted in Harvard, is because one of the main reasons, one, they're Asian, so they're not really white, but they are put as category as white to add numbers in America, but they're not white. To now ban this, a good portion of Asian non-Americans or Asian Americans will possibly now, if it was really in an even playing field, which is not, they will actually now qualify for the top 10 universities. Top 10, top 5, even top 1. And the reason why they will probably have more easier qualify and get in the necessary requirements for test scores, maybe papers, etc., is simple, because their education system's far more different than ours. And I could say maybe a little bit more advanced, a little bit. If y'all recall, if you watch videos what's going on in Asia right now, even back then now, they have a whole tech way of things of educating children. Meaning they got these things they put over their heads to monitor their brain patterns, see if they're concentrating, they're thinking on their work and stuff, and it reports back to their parents in a way. It's like more of a drone type of society. So obviously they're going to be more higher performant because, one, Asian children are being taught by other Asian people. Two, they take education a little more seriously to, I would say, move up and advance in their own lives and the story. Here in America, it's totally different because we are not top in education. We are like almost dead last. And the reason why we're so dead last as a whole is because they are preparing and grooming the future consumers for America. End of story. That's the honest truth. So they're not going to really invest money in actually educating their population effectively. Hell, some of them not even educating them now for the up and coming artificial intelligence / technical age we're in now. Maybe certain non-blacks might be up to par, and I say non, and some. But overall, America as a whole, when they do the data and the breakdown numbers, we're not top in education. Anyone talk about America is top in education, they're lying to you. They're lying to you. The way how we learn here is totally different from other countries. They make a priority to educate their population. Here, it's not a priority. And if it's not a priority, you're not going to be top. You're going to be mostly dead last. A lot of people outside America could speak more than one language. America, you could barely know if anybody could speak more than two languages. They do math at a more proper level. If they don't get it, they do not move on. Here, there's something called No Child Left Behind. People are passed along if they don't get it. So the quality of American education is very low. So that's why you find that not everybody's going to make it, because it's not designed for most of y'all to make it. Because there got to be some consumers and worker bees, and that's it. So that's why Asians will fare better if everything was even playing field. They will get into these top universities first before everybody else. Even whites might get there, but it's going to be more challenging because they have to lower the bar and requirement for them, because a lot of them don't get the necessary education they need to compete as well. Hell, they created IQ for God's sake, just to show that they're superior. But in other means of other paper, they're not. That's the honest truth. A lot of people don't like that, but gotta keep real with y'all. So what else I'm trying to miss you? Oh, one other thing. College today, as it was now, for the last maybe 40 minutes, 40, actually, I would say around mid-70s, almost 50 years now, has not hold weight like it used to be. I think a good portion of college now today are scams. A lot of them are going to overconflate you. They're going to make you pay a lot of money for certain degrees that maybe it's really absolutely irrelevant if you're not careful, personally. And you get into debt, and you are lucky to even pay off the debt. And that's the honest truth. So, what do Blacks and Latinos do now? Well, one thing you could do now is, now if you have respectful parents, which a lot of parents nowadays, I don't know what they view of actually educating their children, you're going to have to really crunch down and invest money and making sure your children are educated well enough. Meaning that you might have to spend money, women, on your children's education. That means you're going to have to spend money on tutors. Yes, you're going to have to pay for that. If your children are not getting it, or you think they're getting it but they need more work, you're going to invest a lot of money in your children. And I don't think a lot of parents are not at task to invest the necessary money for their children, especially the boys. Because think about this. If you're not taking it seriously by educating your boys enough, you're not going to have a society. Even to the point where now, I think most children personally should be separating. The boys should be separated, the girls should be separated, to get the best outcome for better performance. But let's be honest, that's the decision of a lot of people, especially the women that's raising these children. Good luck to that. So I got everything. I think I got everything. And that's it. I'm not going to hold longer to this stream or live video. I want to hear your thoughts. And literally, I would love to hear your thoughts. Do you feel, now that affirmative action is banned, what now? Do you think this is going to be the end of a lot of minorities getting actual higher education? What's the future hold for a lot of people? I wonder. I wonder, D. So, hold on, 3. So that is it, guys. I'm be look for it in the comment section of this one. You know, I'll be watching. I'll be reading to see what y'all thoughts and opinions. And I'm trying to find something else. Wait. Hold on. So I'll be looking forward for y'all hearing your thoughts. Hopefully it should. But like anything, thank y'all for listening to today's stream. Leave a comment at the end of this video. And please hit the like button on your way out. Until next time, guys, take care and good night.